Welcome to the Building Texas Business Podcast, where we share stories of leadership, innovation, and success from business leaders who know what it takes to build great organizations. Building Texas Business is brought to you by Boyer Miller, providing counsel beyond expectations. Learn more about how Boyer Miller helps businesses navigate opportunity and growth with clarity and confidence at boyermiller.com. Now, here's your host, Chris Hanslik.
In this episode, you'll meet Shannon Payne, founder of Allied Fire Protection. Shannon shares his story about building one of Houston's leading fire protection companies and the lessons he's learned along the way, and what it takes to grow a successful business while staying true to your values. Shannon, thanks for coming in today. Man, it's been great to see you. It's been too long.
Yeah, it has. My pleasure being here. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, so I always like to start these conversations asking people, tell us and introduce yourself, but more importantly, your company to the audience, and tell us what you do and what you're known for.
Okay, yeah. My name's Shannon Payne. I'm co-founder, CEO of Allied Fire Protection. It's a beautiful thing. I'm in business saving lives and protecting property, and I don't know how it gets any better than that.
Yeah.
Pretty noble. I still get little chills and goosebumps when I say it. But, we do that through the engineering, constructing, service, maintenance of life safety, fire sprinkler, fire alarm systems, right? And been doing that. It's our 28th year. So
congratulations. So let's go back then to the beginning.
Okay,
what was it that inspired you to start the company, and how'd you get it going?
Well, that's a good question. I would think if I look back, that's about 30 years ago. I had that entrepreneurial spirit, right? I got out of college, went and worked for corporate America, learned some really valuable lessons, and we might get there. But realized that wasn't my path, right? And so as I started venturing from there, really, Chris, it could have been any business. It really could have. It just so happened that the operational strength, which I had found to be super, super important, was right there in front of me, and it was with a lifelong friend who we even dreamed, and when we were teenagers, opened up a business and together, and he happened to be in the fire sprinkler business.
Okay,
it's just or life safety, but it was all fire sprinklers, that company, and he started out as a helper to a fitter, to a foreman, to a superintendent, onto a sales.
Okay,
so really, that's what it was. It could have been fishing. It could have been a lot of different things, but that's how I fell into life safety.
So he had the knowledge of the industry. You had the passion to go.
That's right.
Do something different, and there you go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. At the end of the day, and it was kind of a lesson that I learned from a mentor that stuck with me when my really first job out of college, working for Laidlaw Environmental. It was a big hazardous waste management company. The CEO, he came. We were at a Christmas party, and he asked me what I wanted to do, right? And with my life, and I said, well, I want to be the CEO just like you, right? and he immediately jumped to, well, let me tell you something, the importance of operations. You're always going to have to count on people. You're always going to have to delegate. You're always going to have to do those things. But if you have the opportunity to master operations, seize that. I did it for 5 years. If it's a 4 or 5 year path, that path, seize that opportunity, because at the end of the day, that's what your business is. Everything, if you're selling it, you're selling operations, you're managing operations, you're supporting operations. So why wouldn't you want a master operation? So while I wasn't able to master operations, the next best thing was my best friend who I trusted.
Okay.
And he, and I'm like, it's right there. This is what I need to be doing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great advice too, that you got so early that, I don't know if I've ever heard it articulated that way, but it makes sense. That way you're on top of an efficient, cost managed business if you're on top of operations, right?
That's right.
So you and your friends start, and that was, you said 28 years ago.
Yeah, 98.
So how did it evolve and grow from there? Because now, you're all over the state of Texas, and beyond. So tell us a little bit about that growth trajectory and how that journey's been.
Sure. Yeah. 98, there was just 3 of us in my garage there in Pearland, right? And with the vision, right, to really just, we kept it simple. And I think a lot of people really kind of complicate business, but we just wanted to be the best, right? And so we started in our garage, and it wasn't too long. I had a little, 5-year plan, a vision, business plan, and that it took off. I would say a few years we were, doing 2-3 million all the way up to 2001, where we were doing 7 million, and I had exceeded what my original plans were. So it started there in the garage, and we eventually moved to a little place off Telephone Road. And then from there, what happened was, as I was still, obviously we were building and growing a business, and I didn't put any limits, right? I just literally wanted to be the best at what we did. Right. And there's a lot of things that take you to do that good to great and all that in between. But
easier said than done.
Yeah, it was a little naive. But at the end of the day, if that's the driver, that's a good thing, a good way to be driven, to being the best. But, and then I had some opportunities there early in my career to expand the business. Right. And that was really, I was still learning a lot, still developing myself. But one thing I did know is that the people were a real important piece of this. And I had met a gentleman in the Hill Country area that was was really focused on the service side of the business. Right, we were doing mostly construction.
Okay,
so immediately, it was the right person. I'm like, this is be a great partner. But immediately on the business side, I saw, look at the balance that I'm bringing now to the organization. So that was an opportunity. He joined the company, and immediately our service side of the business went up 15-20%, and really gave that balance of what it really takes long term. And that was an interesting time. And that's when I had my first expansion into San Antonio and McAllen.
Okay.
Right. And from there, you go all the way, and you talk about some crises that hit, like 9/11 early in my career.
Sure.
And you just you don't study that in school, right? I guess you talk about these black swan events, right? And so that was a shocker. We can go in a lot of different directions here, but if I look at that decade right there, we, if you remember, after 9/11, that interest rates started dropping, and you had a construction boom.
Right.
The great state of Texas had a lot of growth, but that was really our first construction boom, and the growth really took off, and my customer base became really solid, and the growth was kind of it was 20, 30, 40% clips that first 5 years, right?
That's tough to manage. I mean, it's good to have, but it can be tough to manage, right?
Yeah. No kidding about that. Is that one of the things I always said is that you got to manage that growth, right? You can't get over your skis. It's a lot easier to grow at 30, 40% when you're starting at a base of 3, 4, 5 million, right? You try to do that at 40, 50 million, and things can rattle and come apart really quick.
Yeah.
But that was really if I look at that decade, it was about surrounding myself with it became really evident that people. I'm in the business of people business right here, surrounding yourself with good quality people, and some great things can happen. And they sure did. We took off, and that first decade, we had 4 offices, and of course the next black swan event comes. That's the financial crisis, right? Almost like a little depression there. And that was an interesting time because now we had got up, we were pretty sizable company. We were doing $35 million and at that time. But then what happens is you go from 35 to 19 to 23 to 2010 to 16 million, trying to manage and make money on a downturn like that, right? That was really challenging. But the beautiful thing about that, Chris, is that if I look at, we made more money in that downturn than we as a percentage of revenue.
Your profitability.
Profitability went up. The total amount maybe not, but as a percentage it went up. And people always ask me, how did you do that? And I was looking at just survival mode, right? I wanted to do survival mode. But at the end of the day, you can say that some of it was luck. I believe you put yourself in a position to get luck.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, what happened, if I look back at those 10 years leading up to that, it was the solid relationships that we built. And what happened is as that turn came, I had a tremendous amount of relationship, and lo and behold, oils that drops down to $20 a barrel and then jumps up to 110, and the oil service companies are just blowing up, right? And we were doing design build, and I had enough of a customer base that was in that industry that we excelled pretty good. So
it helps you come out of it pretty quick.
Absolutely, coming out of that, and I know when I came out of that, I said, all right, Chris, we got 2 Black Swan events in 6 years. These aren't a once in 20-year event anymore. What am I going to do different for the next one?
Yeah.
Right. And that's what really at that time, Chris, it was like, okay, I have to continue to diversify. And that took me into the alarm side of the business.
Okay.
Right. I had customers that it was market driven, but it also was customer driven. I had customers that, have a subcontractor doing the alarms, one doing the sprinkler inspections, one might do the extinguishers. Well, who wouldn't want to deal with one company to do all of them, right? And that was what really got me into the alarm side of the vision, the diversification there.
That kind of became vertically integrated.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's just pull you back a little bit, because you couldn't have survived those events, as you said, without surrounding yourself with good people. So what was some of the things that you were doing, even at the early stages, to kind of vet and make sure you were bringing on the right people? And anything that you can kind of share about those lessons learned and how that helped position you to have that solid base to get through the Black Swan events?
Yeah. I would think if I look back at early in my career, there's more mistakes made, right? And when you're actively involved building a business and you're only counting on yourself, you could have a lot more control over those things. But, you're also at that time, you're growing, you're looking for talent that can actually just do the job, right? But then it doesn't take very long if you don't get the right people, right? And we call it, principle value-based people, right?
Okay.
And we have our own type of values, that we think define success. Doesn't mean if you don't share those, you're a bad person. You're just not an Allied Fire Protection person. So I think more so.
We say that here about our mission and values every day.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I think what happened was you still surround yourself with good people, but you might get carried away a little bit and get lured into somebody that's really technical. Right. And you might forget about what's actually the heartbeat, what's the soul of the individual, because he's so overwhelmingly smart here. Right. And it's easy to get caught up in that. And believe me, all those things did happen. But I would think it's not really what I was doing right at that point. I think it's what I learned to continue that continuous improvement to get me where I am here today. And I tell you, one of the things that we do today, and it's been about 9-10 years, is that we 100% hire on values first.
Yeah.
We have a lot of smart people, right? And you can say you got technical people, you got your IS, you got all this in between, but at the end of the day, we just want solid people.
Yeah.
And we think if we get solid, good value-based people, that we can do anything.
I think that's great. I told you, I referenced it. We do the same. We call it hiring and firing from culture, our mission and values. And also think I think it's the place you hope to get to as an organization. I don't know if you can do it early, because you may not even know who you are. You're still finding yourself as an organization. And what are your true values?
Yeah.
But once you figure that out, if you hold true to those, then more times than not, the decisions you make, if they align with those values, will be good decisions.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And can I share a story on that?
Yeah, please.
So you say that, and that's exactly for me, the self-discovery is that we rebranded in 2017. And one of the things that we did was I hired a consultant and said, who is Allied Fire Protection?
Yeah.
Right? Here's who I think they are. But at the end of the day, doesn't really matter what I think. Each team member, my customer, they're the face of the company. It's what they think.
Right.
And so when I jumped into it at first, when I was looking at rebranding, I'm thinking logo and the website. But then as I dug into it, I was like, I wanted to know more who we were. And this consulting company went out to every one of my team members from the field. None of this stuff is real cheap, right?
Right.
From the field to the office to my customer base, and ask those same questions. Why are you here? What do you do? What keeps you here? And it was from that right there is where from that hiring of that consulting firm that our mission and our values were developed.
Yeah.
Our team said, this is why we're here. This is why we enjoy our customers. This is why we use Allied. And so I took that information and I said, that's who we are.
Yeah.
And it was that day that I rolled out a new mission, a vision, obviously a logo. I did all the branding stuff, and it was a new day for Allied, right? So it kind of plays into your point.
Yeah, and well, I think what you got there out of that, right? One, you learned a lot that helps you lead, but two, your people felt heard and listened to, and then they saw you take what they did, and now their engagement just goes through the roof, right?
That's right.
What they'll do for you, the company, and the customer, and you reach out to the customers, so there's a sense of loyalty there. You care about their opinion.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Great lessons to learn. So you mentioned something talking about coming out, I think, the financial downturn by being in Texas. So let's talk a little bit about what's been your experience about the value of being a Texas-based business. And I want to talk a little bit maybe later because you've now expanded. I mean, you're everywhere in Texas I think you can be or want to be, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good question. There's just a tremendous amount of value. I think, first, we're in a growth state.
Yeah.
All right, let's not, and we have been for a tremendous amount of time. And then
no signs of stopping.
No signs of stopping. And then you're in a pro-business, a business-friendly state that they want you here. They know the value of what that does for the communities and stuff. So you get the ability that you're wanted there. Culturally, it's been like that in Texas for a long time. So just look at Houston, no zoning. They've always been pro-business through the permitting, through the legislative, through the whole part of, and you could carry that over through the state of Texas. So the pro-business atmosphere feeds on itself, right? And more people want to be there. So I think if you look at the growth, and you look at just the culture, the legislative, how we're set up, our tax, and the government. It's really there's not any other place to be.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great opportunities.
And the legislature, by and large, tries to stay out of the way and let business do its thing.
That's right. What is that? Laissez-faire, right? Hands off a little bit. That's true.
Yeah. So then expanding. You mentioned a minute ago, I guess San Antonio. But I know you've gone to Dallas-Fort Worth and other parts of the state. What are some of the things that have driven the vision for expansion? But how do you go about internally taking that step? Because there's risk in saying we're going to open in a different geographic location where you, the founder, can't be every day.
That's right.
So what are some of the things you found to be helpful in evaluating that decision and then monitoring it to making sure it's making the progress that you want it to make?
Yeah. Well, I think first when we looked at it, we looked at where do we want to be, right? And obviously we looked at the pro-business friendly climate, where the growth is projected to be over the next 10, 20 years. And that happened to be in the Southeast, right? Yeah. And then you take that, and there's a lot of great markets, right? You take that, and then the next most important thing is, what about the people, right? Where can I find awesome people to help continue to grow this company, right? So you take those two, and quite frankly, we're in Nashville and we're in Tampa. It could have been Charlotte. It could have been Atlanta, right? I met some awesome individuals that I could build around that believed in our vision and our mission and what we were doing. And that's where it starts, right? Now, of course, there's risk and everything. But again, I believe in, I tell you, we're a people business. You believe in the people and you get the right people and you can do some wonderful things. So it's like anything else. What is your appetite for risk?
Right.
What is your capital? What position are you in? Those kind of things. And everything we've done has been organic.
That's
to
what's
this
so
day.
impressive to me is that you've grown outside of Houston. It's all been organic.
All organic, yeah.
So you're finding the right person, and then you're just believing in them and investing in them, and then supporting them.
That's exactly supporting them, believing in them. Again, you surround yourself with people that believe in your mission and what you're doing. And then we always say the next most important person that we hire. I mean, the most important hire is the next hire, right? You want to keep a culture intact.
Yeah.
It's each individual plays a role. It's that hiring process, onboarding, getting the right people, and some wonderful things can happen. So that's kind of how we look at it, right?
Yeah. So keeping the culture consistent across different geographic regions, I would believe, has to be challenging because you aren't there. So you're having to teach and ingrain the importance of that culture to other people, and then trust that they're going to be the culture, cheerleader or whatever within that new location, and making sure that it's continuing to, foster and grow the culture that you set and you established.
That's right. Yeah, and we try to keep the same playbook, right? Of course, I've kind of beaten up this people part, but that's important, right? And we have one operating system. We operate this way, right? So the expectations, what is expected out of it's not different from one location to the next. We continue. We're really big in the community, right? So we have spring picnics, things like that we give back to the community. We do that in every office, the same way. We celebrate life. We celebrate birthdays, right? And again, we try to keep what's been successful for us here. And you'll hear me say a lot of people, the first business, and just kind of mirror that and continue that and not deviate from that, right? But it does have challenges. But anytime you have growth, and when you scale a company, you can't be everywhere. It can't be you. It comes back to the people you surround yourself with, right?
And learning to let go.
Yeah, and actually, absolutely, it's and I've had to. Not that I'm it's a good point you make. Not that I'm a micro manager, because I'm by far that is not who I am. But when you build a business and everything rests on your shoulders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to a certain size, you can only do so much. What do you do when you're starting to grow? Can you let go? Can you count on other people? And absolutely what you have to do, right? You have to empower people to make those decisions and trust them, right? But that is a shift, right? From starting in your garage to where you're at. There's a lot of changes, the structure changes, process and procedures, the importance of that, and you can't do it all, even though you think you might be capable of it. And it's not a good practice anyway, but still, that is a big change, right?
Yeah.
So nothing easy about it, but the business and life in itself is not easy, right?
So it's not, definitely not. It's a challenge, and not everybody can do it. So let's talk a little bit about innovation. What do you think you have done or are doing there at Allied over the last, several years that you think is kind of innovative and really setting your company apart from the competition?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the things, there's probably a couple, but let me start with this one. I think one of the big challenges, not only that we have, I think a lot of companies have, is people, right? Finding the right people, especially in the trades. You hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we've done, and it's been about 4 or 5 years ago, I said, you know what? It is so difficult to find the right people, right? You poach them here, you take them here, all those kind of things. It's just a challenge, right? So what can we do differently? So we built out a training and development, a talent acquisition department, and a really robust training and development department. So instead of waiting or trying to poach or trying to convince somebody to jump over here, we said, let's go to the kids. Let's go to schools, the high schools, the militaries. Let's introduce them not only to Allied Fire Protection, but to the life safety fire sprinkler industry.
Yeah.
Right? Let's show them a career path here. And I think, that's been a really big win for us, right? Developing relationships with the school districts, the technology and mechanical wings of these BOTech wings of these schools, military bases, and really, I said develop the relationship, but really get that opportunity to get in front of those kids and tell them, like, look, there's a lot of paths to success. Here's one of them right here. So it doesn't sound innovative, but I don't think my competition is doing it. I think some of them might have recruiters and might be going out there. No, we want to introduce you to this trade. We want to show you the career path, and we'll put you on that path. And so that's that. And I believe I have a leadership development program. You always look at where's the next generation coming from, right? And I talked to you about the importance of operations. And so we have a program where we go out to the colleges and really recruit. It don't have to be a construction background, right? But kids that want to get into this trade, or maybe if they don't, introduce them to it and recruit them and put them on a path. In this RDP, rotational development program, it's kind of like getting your master's, right? And what happens is that we're going to put you where you actually understand the operations. Back to the key of operations, and it's an 18-month program. So you're talking about, it's not the easiest thing to sell a kid that's coming out of college,
right?
Saying, "Oh, I gotta do another program for 18
thought
months.
I was done with school.
I thought I was done with school." But I think when they hear the vision and why the importance of it, it's been really successful for us. And we're in our third class, right? And we've gotten some really great, talented people that have bought into that. And that is our future. So I would say those are a couple of things that we're doing. On the technology front, not so much are we innovating that way within the industry. It's been, for us personally, we've really turned our company upside down the last 2 years. We going into 25, we changed every software that we had all at once.
That's fun.
That's a lot of fun, huh? Somebody said, "What are you thinking?" And maybe I wasn't thinking correctly. I don't have no regrets, but yeah, we've for us, we've really from our ERP to our CRM to our construction software, service software, all the way now to integrating a little bit of AI and learning that foundation. So I would think that what I said earlier about the talent acquisition, the training programs that we have in place, I want to think that we're kind of leading our industry.
I would say that talent acquisition definitely sounds innovative to me. I know a company here in town on the electrical side of things that started their own school. The same reason, right? I mean, the competition for talent is so robust, and not only when you get them, it's keeping them, because they might jump for an extra couple dollars an hour or something. But if you invest that training in them, and get them on the ground floor,
that's right.
Hopefully you're building some loyalty in there. We're taking the time to actually invest and train in you.
That's right.
Give you that. So I think I see where that would make you stand out. That's what you want to do. You want to stand out from the competition. And then that leadership program plays into that, because, again, once they're there, you're investing in them to maybe create some retention.
That's exactly right. You hit it. Everything we do, we want everything to be 100% retention, but we're also realists and know that that's not possible. But anything to raise our percentages, right? Anything to differentiate ourselves.
What when you look back, Shannon, and you think about some times you stubbed your toe or made a mistake, and what are some of the learning moments that really stick with you? One or two where you're like, man, at the moment you thought you were done for, but you pulled yourself up and learned from it, and you got better, and the company got better because of it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. There's probably a few, right?
Everyone has more than one.
There's probably a few.
If they're being honest.
But I tell you, that's interesting. The old saying, "Hey, it's okay to make a mistake. You just learn from your mistake. Don't make it twice." Right. Shame on you if you're not learning if you make it twice. So, unfortunately, I'm going to share a story that I didn't learn the first time. I'd like to say that's not the case, but it did. So back in 2004, we had was coming after 9/11. You had that kind of the economic boom, interest rates lowered. Bush was in there. He lowered the interest rates. You had construction taken off. Well, what happened is that the commodities took off too, right? And now I'm under all these contracts. And at the time, maybe it's, I did in '04, I think I did $7 million, but it's all relative, right?
Right.
So I had all these jobs under contract. And when I get these jobs, they don't start for 6 months.
Right. And you're
So,
pricing
and I'm
material.
pricing material at today's price, right? So I've had 5 years under my belt where material's been flat, right? I'm pricing it. And then all of a sudden it jumps. And it jumps, and you're sitting there going, my goodness, that's a lot of money on the table. You don't have I didn't have any protection within the contract, and maybe not even smart enough to put it in, or even if I was, they probably wouldn't have accepted that. So I learned real quick that I've got to do things to protect this company. And so it just happened to be as that material went up, I lost more money in the first quarter. And it was when also I was building a house, right? So and I had a cost overrun. I'm losing losing money here with this things that I didn't know could possibly happen, and so really good gut check right there, right?
Yeah.
And it just happened to be that we overcame that, and as soon as the market was hot enough that you kind of could raise your prices and you were still getting work, and then the steel collapsed, and it ended up that we ended up making all that money that we lost and more, and it ended up being the best year at that point on record. But what were the lessons learned there? And there I'm like, I got to do something different going forward. And so I was like, I'll really protect it in the contract and things like that. Well, then what happens? You get in the lull, right? Many years go by. Steel, and I'll use steel because that commodity is really what affects us a lot. Right?
Sure. That and copper, right?
Not so much for us in copper, but plumbing, a little bit in copper, but mostly steel, mostly pipe. So what happens is, again, you stay in this range for 15 years and you get caught in a lull again, right? And I had a couple where they moved up a little bit and came down, and you don't even, it's a blip, you don't even recognize it. So I'm saying all this to say that it happened to me again, and it was in 21, and with the pandemic. After the pandemic, still jumps up this time, 3 times as high as it's been for 3 times as long.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and tell me, and so what? And you're just chasing it behind, hey, I'm raising my price here on the on jobs, that new jobs we're bidding, but you can't keep up with it. Right. And the reckoning there was nothing. It was not very nice at all. And so I come out of that, and there's 2 things. I said, I go to my team. I say, look, this is what I did. This is what happened. We lost this. And I'm 100% transparent. It's the only way you can be. But it's not going to happen this way again. Tell them in our annual meeting, this is what I'm doing about it. So what happened is that I tried, I'll adjust and I'll protect us in the contract as much as I can. And some of the contractors, they've been burned a lot on it. They're like, either you protect yourself or not. I'm not going to eat this language. Which you're well aware of all those things. And so the other thing is what else can I do? I went to the open market. I tried to buy contracts of HRC. I found out real quick that I could move that market. It's a private closed-in market, and it's not exactly what it seems to be. So that won't work. So at the end of the day, is that the only way that I could protect my suppliers couldn't protect me, nobody could protect me, was me buying the pipe it myself. You know what I mean? And that means more capital, more outlay, things like that. I've tried everything else. I've had suppliers say that, hey, we'll help you here. But unfortunately, I think sometimes they think that gives them the ability to maybe add a few points on it because they're fabricating it since they're holding it. So that lesson, because you're talking about $1 million lessons, right?
Sure, big lessons,
and
big dollar lessons.
And I can gladly say since 21 that I'm not going back to my company and saying, hey, I might lose some money. We might lose some money in this journey that we're on. We're not going to lose it that way.
Right.
And so that was one big lesson right there.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Yeah.
I can remember in conversations with you probably back in that 17, 18 time frame where those prices were running from you. So I guess one of the things you've done now is you've outlaid capital to just increase your inventory.
That's right.
And absorb that now, but protection and a hedge for future fluctuations.
And that's it. It does, if you look back the last 4 or 5 years, you see it's a perfect trader cycle, up and down. I mean, it hits a point, but I'm not, we say that we're not in the commodity business, but I am. It's a hedge.
Yeah.
It's worked out really, really good for us. And we're a big end user of steel. And that's, back in 04, you're talking about, 1/20th of the revenue that we generate now,
Right. Well, I think the lesson there for anyone that's listening is understand, your cost components and how those pricing may fluctuate or change, and then figure out what can you do to guard against that, because those market dynamics are completely out of your control.
Oh, that's right. And there's ways in the contract you can put collars, but what happens is not all your customers are going to go for that.
That's right.
So again, what can you do to protect it? And that's what I found to be the most effective.
So you mentioned earlier having strong customer relationships. Let's talk just briefly about, what are some of the things you've done to really build and solidify those relationships to kind of create that loyalty amongst your customer base?
Yeah. At the end of the day, and I mentioned it earlier, that we have the ability to make things a little bit more difficult than they have to be. But with me, I found out what my customers, what was their pain points, right? Where did they have problems? And you found out a lot that it was easy stuff. It was things that they don't get back in touch with me. People don't get back in touch with you. They're not doing what they say they're going to do. All these things, that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Right. And then what happened was I built relationships, because you're talking about $1 million deals. And I wanted them to know who they were dealing with. What I could guarantee you is that if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm not, I might not be, me personally, be an expert in fire sprinkler, but what I can tell you is I'm a value-based person. If I tell you I'm going to do this, I'm going to get it done. And if I tell you when I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it at that time, right? So you can trust me. Right. So really, if you look at that, or you look at relationship, what are relationships built on? Trust.
Yeah.
And so the only way you can trust somebody is to get to know somebody, right? And so I made a big effort to know my customers on a personal level, where they got to really know what made me tick, and what and the values that I stood for, and that they could count on those. And that's really what relationships are built on, right?
Yeah.
On trust. And I kept it really that simple. And I told my son, and it leads me to something many years ago, say 15 years ago. He was a little teenager, and I said, I was probably 15 years in the business. And I said, you know what, son? If you can do 2 things, you'll be better than 90% of all the companies. Of course, a little 13-year-old's eyes go like this, 90% better. I said, 2 things. I said, say what you can do and do what you say.
Yeah.
That easy. I gave him, and that's when I entered. And it was really that simple.
That's simple.
It's just that simple. And I said 90%. Well, what does it take? Well, there's a lot of things to get from that 90 to 100. And I'd give him little projects, and he got that firsthand experience at 13, 14, building a barn. Subcontractors stand him up. Can you believe that they didn't even call me back? I could have done this, or this, right? So he learned real quick the value of, hey, look, just say what you can do, and then do what you say, and you'll be surprised how you pull away from the pack.
Yeah. No, what I love about what you said is we do try to make things more complicated than they need to be, and it really comes down that simple. No matter what business you're in, and I see a lot of them, I know you do too, everyone will tell you if they've been in it long enough, they've been successful. It's relationships.
Oh,
It's about people and relationships. And then whatever widget is you're selling, making, service, whatever, can vary. But as long as you can master those 2 things, then your chances of success increase exponentially.
Yeah. That's 100% correct. And I make it real clear is that, you can have these great, strong relationships, but don't get it confused when you're in business that you still have to do a wonderful job.
Right.
These relationships, these guys get to know you, but at the end of the day, this is your livelihood. Maybe they'll go drink a beer with you after work, but you're still going to have to produce, right? The beautiful thing about developing that relationship is that they really get to know who you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you still got to deliver.
You got to deliver.
So you're a busy boy. So what do you like to do to, when you get away, rest, recharge? Kind of what's your go-to?
Yeah, I love the outdoors. You know that, Chris. You can put me anywhere outdoors, and I'll be happy. If it's not particularly the the water, or the bush per se, but I love to hunt and fish. But you take that out of the equation, anything that you can put me with my family outdoors, I'm happy. I'm a happy character. And so I think that's really my getaway, just going outdoors, doing a little fishing, and I don't even mind doing it by myself.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I get you.
I enjoy that.
I get you on that. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up, but I got to ask one more question before we wrap, and that's: do you prefer Tex-Mex or barbecue?
Oh goodness, boy, those. Yeah, you have to pick one, huh? That's both. Those are my favorite. I'm gonna. If the old saying, if you had a gun to your head, you can only pick one. You got to make a decision. I pick barbecue.
All right, there you go.
Yeah,
it's funny. We can talk about a lot of complex business and fascinating things, and that question stumps more people than anyone.
Yeah, right. Right.
Shannon, this has been great, man. Thanks for taking the time to share your story, and I've just been proud to become your friend and see what you've done with this company. And I know you're just going to continue to take it on and grow it even bigger.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me, and yeah, it's been a nice nice ride, and you over the last 10, 15 years been a part of that too. So yeah, been great catching up today.
All right, well, good luck to you. That's it for this episode of Building Texas Business. Don't forget to check out the show notes at BoyerMiller.com/podcast for insights and resources from today's conversation. Learn more about how Boyer Miller can help your business grow at BoyerMiller.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.